Let go and be free. The power of detachment. Buddhist teachings. Have you ever noticed how much of our suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the way we cling to it? We hold tightly to relationships, possessions, ambitions, and even identities, believing that without them, we would somehow cease to exist. And yet the tighter we hold, the more fragile our peace becomes. A single loss, a single change, a single disappointment, suddenly our sense of stability shatters. It is in this fragile web of attachment that much of human suffering is born. Buddhism teaches us a profound truth. The root of suffering is not life itself, but our grasping, our inability to let go. This does not mean we must renounce love, abandon goals, or withdraw from the world. Instead, it means learning to live without clinging, to engage fully with life while allowing it to flow freely, without chains of expectation. This is the essence of detachment, not cold indifference, but wise freedom. Detachment is often misunderstood. To many it sounds like turning away, not caring, or becoming distant. But in the Buddhist sense, detachment is the art of caring deeply without clinging desperately. It is the ability to love without fear of loss, to work without being enslaved by results, to live without being imprisoned by desires. Detachment is not about rejecting life. It is about embracing it with open hands, rather than closed fists. When the Buddha spoke of impermanence, he reminded us that everything in this world is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same. Relationships evolve, fortunes rise and fall, even our bodies change with each passing moment. If we build our happiness on the illusion of permanence, we will always suffer. But if we accept impermanence as the natural law of life, then detachment becomes the path to freedom. We begin to see that letting go does not mean losing it means living with a heart that is unburdened. In today's world where society constantly tells us to acquire more, achieve more, and hold on tighter, the wisdom of detachment is more important than ever. People chase success, possessions, and recognition, believing these will bring lasting happiness, only to discover that the joy is fleeting and the anxiety remains. Detachment offers a radical alternative. Instead of chaining ourselves to endless cravings, we learn to step back, breathe, and experience life as it is. In this space, true peace is born. In this talk, we will explore the deeper meaning of detachment in Buddhism, how attachment keeps us trapped in cycles of suffering, and how letting go can open the door to real freedom. This is not about renouncing life, but about discovering a lighter way to live. For when you finally let go, you do not fall into emptiness, you rise into freedom. What detachment really means in Buddhism? When people hear the word detachment, many imagine a life stripped of warmth and intimacy, as if one must turn cold and indifferent in order to be free. But in Buddhism, detachment does not mean the absence of love or compassion. On the contrary, it means cultivating a love so pure and compassion so deep that it is not limited by clinging, fear, or control. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from tanha, or craving. This craving takes many forms: desire for pleasure, fear of pain, attachment to ideas, or even the need to control how others see us. Detachment, then, is not about rejecting the world, but about releasing the compulsive grip of craving. It is a shift in perspective. Instead of saying, "This must stay the way I want it to be," we say, "This is here for now. I can honor it without trying to hold it forever." Consider a lotus flower. It blooms in muddy water, untouched by the filth around it. Detachment is like the lotus. It allows us to remain engaged in the world while not being consumed by it. To practice detachment is to walk through life with open hands, appreciating each moment, but never trying to force it into permanence. A common misunderstanding is to equate detachment with indifference. Indifference closes the heart. Detachment opens it. Indifference says, "I don't care what happens." Detachment says, "I care deeply, but I do not cling. This distinction is crucial. When we detach from our attachments, we do not stop loving, we begin to love more freely without chains of expectation. A parent who clings to their child's future will suffer each time life unfolds differently than they imagined. A parent who practices detachment, however, still loves deeply, but allows the child to grow, change, and discover their own path. In Buddhist practice, detachment is closely linked to the teaching of anacomed permanence. Everything changes. Clinging to what must change is like holding on to water with a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the less remains. Detachment invites us to open the hand, to let the water flow naturally. We still enjoy its coolness, but we do not fight its nature. Another essential aspect is upka, or equanimity. Detachment nurtures equanimity by teaching us to meet both joy and sorrow with balance. It does not mean we no longer feel emotions. It means we no longer drown in them. Joy is savored without greed, and pain is acknowledged without despair. Ultimately, detachment in Buddhism is not a withdrawal from life, but a fuller participation in it. It frees us from the prison of constant craving and fear, allowing us to act with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. When we detach, we step out of the cycle of I must have, I must keep, I must control, and instead enter a state of trust in impermanence. Trust in the unfolding of life. Trust that true peace arises when we let go. The struggles of attachment, if detachment is freedom, then attachment is the chain that binds us. The Buddha identified attachment as one of the primary roots of human suffering, because it keeps us grasping for stability in a world that is forever changing. And when life inevitably shifts, we are left feeling anxious, betrayed, or broken. Attachment can take many forms. We attach to relationships, believing someone will always remain as we wish them to be. We attach to possessions, convinced that they will bring lasting happiness. We attach to status and recognition, seeking to define our worth through the eyes of others. Yet all of these things are impermanent. People change, possessions fade, fame and praise vanish as quickly as they appear. When our happiness depends on holding them, suffering is unavoidable. Take, for example, the attachment to love. Loving another person is natural and beautiful, but when love turns into possession, you must stay the way I want you to be. You must fulfill my needs. It becomes a source of pain. Instead of nurturing freedom, attachment creates fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear that the beloved will change. What should have been a source of joy becomes a cage for both the lover and the loved. The same is true with material possessions. We buy something new and feel a spark of happiness, but soon that feeling fades. To chase it again, we buy more, and the cycle repeats. This endless craving is like drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Attachment tricks us into believing that satisfaction is just one more purchase away, yet it never delivers the peace we seek. Even our own identity becomes an attachment. We cling to the idea of who we are, our career, our image, our belief sand. When these are challenged, we feel threatened. This is why criticism can sting so deeply. Our ego clings to an illusion of permanence, and when reality shakes it, we resist. Buddhism teaches that the real struggle is not with the world, but with our refusal to accept its impermanence. When we cling, we are like someone trying to hold on to autumn leaves as the wind carries them away. We exhaust ourselves trying to control what cannot be controlled. The more we fight against change, the more fragile and fearful we become. The cost of attachment is heavy. It robs us of the present moment, chaining us either to memories of the past or fantasies of the future. We spend our lives chasing, fearing, grasping, yet rarely resting in the simple truth of now. Detachment offers release, but first we must see clearly how attachment entangles us. Only then can we take the courageous step of loosening our grip, allowing life to move as it must, and discovering that true happiness is not found in holding on, but in letting go. Freedom through detachment. If attachment ties us to cycles of fear and disappointment, then detachment is the key that unlocks our freedom. To detach is not to run away from life, but to enter it with greater clarity and openness. It is the art of engaging, fully loving, working, dreaming without being imprisoned by outcomes. In this freedom, peace arises naturally. When we practice detachment, we begin to experience life as it truly is. Fluid, impermanent, alive. Instead of clinging to each passing moment, we allow it to come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. Joy is savored without the need to hold it forever, and sorrow is felt without drowning in despair. We begin to understand that all experiences, whether pleasant or painful, are teachers that pass through our lives and move on. One of the greatest freedoms detachment brings is release from fear. Most of our anxieties are rooted in the thought of losing what we cling to: relationships, possessions, reputation. But when we loosen our grip, we discover that even if these things change or fade, our inner peace does not have to vanish with them. Freedom arises from knowing that happiness is not dependent on what we hold, but on how we hold it. In Buddhism, this freedom is linked with the cultivation of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. When we detach, we can love without fear because our love is no longer about control. We wish for the well-being of others without binding them to our expectations. Detached love says, "I love you as you are, not as I need you to be." This kind of love is expansive, liberating both the giver and the receiver. Detachment also sharpens our wisdom. Without the haze of clinging, we see reality more clearly, stop projecting our desires onto life, and instead observe it as it unfolds. This clarity allows us to act with balance, to respond rather than react, and to walk the middle path the Buddha taught, not swayed by extremes of greed or aversion. Perhaps the most profound gift of detachment is that it leads us back to the present moment. Detachment keeps us chained to what was or what might be. Detachment anchors us in what is. Here, in the stillness of now, we discover a joy that is not fleeting, but steady, not dependent, but whole. Freedom through detachment does not mean losing ourselves. It means finding ourselves beyond the layers of craving and fear. It means realizing that our true nature is spacious, luminous, and free like the open sky, untouched by passing storms. And when we learn to rest in that space, we discover the truth the Buddha pointed to, that liberation is not somewhere far away, but right here in the moment we finally let go. Letting go, living free as we reach the end of this reflection on detachment. It is important to remember that letting go is not about losing life, but about living it more deeply. In Buddhism, detachment is not a denial of love, joy, or connection. It is the path that allows those very qualities to flourish without fear or clinging. It is freedom, not isolation, clarity, not indifference. When we cling tightly, we live in constant tension. We fear change, we resist impermanence, and we suffer when life does not bend to our will. But when we practice detachment, we release the chains that bind us to this endless cycle of craving and disappointment. We begin to see that freedom is not something the world can give or take away, it is a state of mind that emerges when we no longer hold everything with desperation. Detachment does not mean turning away from the people or dreams we love. Instead, it means approaching them with openness. We can love without control, work without obsession, and live without fear of loss. Detachment allows us to give more, not less, because our giving is no longer poisoned by hidden demands or expectations. In this way, detachment is not the death of love, but its purification. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering, and the cessation of clinging is the root of peace. Each time we loosen our grip on a memory, on a desire, on a fear, we create space for serenity. Each time we surrender our need to control, we step closer to freedom. Life continues to change, as it always will, but we are no longer shaken by its every movement. Instead, we move with it, like a river flowing effortlessly to the sea. For many, the practice of detachment begins with small steps. Perhaps it is letting go of the need for constant approval, or learning to sit quietly with emotions instead of being ruled by them. Perhaps it is choosing gratitude for what we have, rather than yearning endlessly for what we lack. Over time, these small acts of letting go create a profound transformation. They lead us to a place where peace is not fragile, but unshakable, where happiness does not come and go with circumstances, but flows steadily from within. And so, as you move forward from this teaching, consider what attachments weigh most heavily on your heart. What are you clinging to that keeps you from resting in freedom? Begin there. Let go gently, not with force, but with awareness. Each release is not a loss, but a gift. For in letting go, you will discover the spaciousness of your own being, the stillness of the present moment, and the joy of a heart unburdened. In the end, detachment is not about walking away from life. It is about walking into it with open hands and an open heart. It is about living fully, loving freely, and resting in the truth that you were always free. When you let go, you do not fall into emptiness. You rise into freedom.